Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Meet Your Congregation. We are here with our friend Ryan. Ryan, what's your last name?
Is it Remington?
Remington.
Remington, like the gun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sewing machine.
Sewing machine, that's better.
Yeah.
For us nonviolence people. So I wanted to start out with just asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. I'm 35 years old. I work at a coffee shop. I'm an ex-bartender. I stole Jay Baker's idea to run a church and a bar. I've got a book coming out shortly through Choir Publishing.
Nice.
Cool.
I've got my own podcast. So, yeah.
What's your book and podcast called?
The book's going to be called Thomas Predestined. The podcast is called The Table at Cana.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Thomas Predestined. Like the biblical Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The book deals with kind of like me leaving faith and coming back into it after about a decade. Me getting arrested, spending time in jail, me going to a mental institution for a little while. So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, sounds like an
Just a
uplifting
good
book.
time. Yeah.
Is it true? I thought I saw on your Instagram, too, that you preach sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a denomination that you normally associate with?
No. The church that I am currently attending, I use that term pretty loosely, is a non-denominational church.
Okay.
So, yeah, I speak there, and then the Table at Cana, the bar ministry that I do, I speak there.
Awesome.
Right on. What is your podcast about?
I mean, it's conversations with random people. We just talked to Chris Rochelle from Listener a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool, man.
My buddy Brandon Thrasher and I have spent the past couple of weeks talking about spiritual trauma. He's working on kind of an essay, pretty lengthy paper for fun about connecting spiritual trauma to PTSD and then wrapping it all in the language of a haunted house.
Oh, wow.
That sounds cool.
So, yeah.
That sounds really
It's very interesting.
Awesome. That's cool. You're a Listener fan, man. I love Listener so much. I think the second talk I ever gave at Revolution, I quoted Wooden Heart for like the last part of the talk.
Yeah, man. It's Wooden Heart might be top 10 records for me. So like that album is just amazing.
For sure.
So
Nice.
Seatbelt Hands reminds me so much of my mother in a weird way.
Okay.
So
Cool, man. Very cool. I feel like that's kind of what we do at Revolution is try to take. I always tell Jay we've got this shipwreck that's called Christianity, and we're just trying to build something out of the remains. And we talk about like, why do we keep doing this? What are we trying to do here? And I feel like that's kind of sums it up as we've got something really broken, and we're just trying to make something work out of it. But
I keep thinking about it. I'm going through this weird thing currently where I'm looking at the individual versus the corporate. Kind of growing up like in the hardcore DIY punk rock scene. Looking at the individual's always been the most important thing. So to couch that in religious language, it's about personal salvation is what we're told. And that's becoming more and more bullshit to me.
Right.
It's a communal thing. It's about the people that you surround yourself with and how in that community we find salvation. So yeah, something like Wooden Heart, for example, like the shipwreck, there's people on that shipwreck, and that's who builds the thing together. It's not Dan building the thing, it's everybody. So I like that.
Yeah, takes a village. Definitely. Caleb's definitely helped out a lot having him here. I was kind of flying solo for a while, and I'm surprised, I had some help with some of my buddy Paolo, but he lived out of town, so it was kind of crazy trying to keep the church afloat. So, when you have other people taking part and being part of it and sharing the vision, and, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds churchy, but whatever. So, I mean, I got a question, Ryan. Why do you why do you listen? What draws you in to Revolution? I mean, you got your own podcast, your own church. You go to church.
Yeah. I found out about you specifically from the Sundance docuseries One Punk Under God.
Yeah.
Back in, what was that, 2006? And I've kind of followed, I mean, you ever since then. When I came back into my faith, as it were, one of the things that I did is I sat down with a bunch of people from my past and I asked them 3 questions. The first one, why is the virgin birth important?
Yeah.
The second one, why is the resurrection important? And the third one, is my wife going to hell? And I never found an answer to any of those questions that really resonated with me. You know, I talked to 15, 20 different like pastors from my youth. And I was scrolling through podcasts one day. I connected with a guy online, Mason Manega. He's up at Solomon's Porch.
Yeah, I know him.
Leader.
Yeah, he was on another podcast that we do called Sacred Collective. He was actually on that podcast too. So
yeah, connected with him on the internet. Connected with a dude named Ryan Cagle on the internet as well. He's from Alabama. And started talking to them about these 3 questions, listening to both of their podcasts, and Revolution popped up.
Oh, weird.
And as like a, you might also like.
Really?
So it just so happened that it was the Galatians series again.
And again. And again.
And I mean, I sat down and listened to that, and then went back through and listened to a handful of other episodes, and I found myself just bawling my eyes out, and kind of finding the solace that I wasn't anywhere else, finding community that I wasn't anywhere else. A lot of times, so I've been looking for positions within vocational ministry for the past couple of years, and it's weird. When I started searching, I had, 30 hills that I would die on, right?
Right.
These huge theological things that fuck you if you didn't agree. I apologize if cursing's not allowed.
No, it's okay.
No one fucking curses on this goddamn podcast.
I know, right? Then turn around and, over time that's come down to, these handful of very important issues for me. And the church that I attend regularly, that I speak at regularly, or semi-regularly, I don't agree with them theologically. And I keep trying to hold on to this idea that it's okay to disagree, that disagreement among the body is acceptable.
Yeah.
But it's hard, and hearing voices like yours, hearing people that are willing to be open with their hurt, with their suffering. I keep looking at, what is that, Ecclesiastes, where the speaker, no, it's in Psalms. It's one of the Psalms. The speaker's talking about God coming down into Sheol with him. And how I think that we do a real shit job of entering into death with people, basically.
Yeah.
And you kind of inviting listeners into your divorce, and into your, the shit that you go through in life. That's you asking God into Sheol in the form of another human being. And that resonates. That's what I need.
Oh, so, thanks, man. I had somebody else the other day tell me I was whiny. Literally send me an Instagram to tell me that I was whiny, that they listened to me talk about me and God and my divorce, and then I needed to move on. So the compassion continues.
Yeah.
But at least they're listening, so,
I like how you said that, man, about God kind of descending with you in the form of another human. I think that's a really beautiful kind of way to elaborate on the metaphor of the body of Christ, Yeah. Like if we are the body, then we have to be the hands. We have to be the, we have to, go through the shit with each other. And if that is God to you, then great. I think that's really eloquently put.
Thank you.
It's always interesting to me when, like, you mentioned, like, oh, it's a good community, you know, and I'm like, how do online listeners experience community in our I mean, this is what we're trying to do with this, and what we're trying to do with Meet Your Congregation on Instagram. You know, it's interesting to me that people find it to be a community even when it's an online church. I mean, when we first started, there weren't podcasts. It was just we were putting them on the computer, and I don't even know where we were putting them at the time. I remember we were recording them from cassette straight on the computer. Yeah. So it was weird.
No, I think that anytime, and I found this to be true in my life, anytime you open up and you say, I'm hurting, right? Anytime you share that vulnerability, you invite other people into your life, and that's where and how community starts. Mark Maron is one of the most successful podcasters and comedians on the planet because he walks on stage and he says, this is what fucking hurts. Yeah. And everybody in that audience, everybody that listens to him, they find an in that pain. And I'm in a weird place now to where, you know, financially, emotionally, relationally, like I'm in a better place than I've ever been.
Great.
And I don't know how to do well.
Me either, brother. I'm just starting to feel a little hope, and I don't know what to do with it.
Exactly. Like I'm not sleeping right now because I'm waiting on the next shoe to drop. I'm just laying in bed having, you know, anxiety, tossing and turning all night because when's it all going to fucking come falling apart?
Right.
So.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's hope. I mean, it's going to come. I mean, something's going to come, but hopefully it won't be a horrible disaster.
Yeah. And maybe you'll be better equipped, hopefully, you know, to maybe even just take the blows, not even to dodge the blows, but maybe just to take them a little bit, you know, more in stride, I guess.
I mean, I've gotten better at drawing boundaries and being me, you know, and not worrying, not giving up my own will and my own desires anymore that I used to just give away so easily. And now or even my convictions, you know what I mean? It was like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And then I would like take polls, and I stopped taking polls, you know? It's one of those things that you really hope you can hold on to. I always try to make sure that I'm not falling back into that. So when I do go through the next hell, it won't be, hopefully at least the next hell won't be a making of my own. And, that's been a lot of my past is I've kind of helped create that, you know?
Oh yeah. I've definitely created hell for myself and for others around me. I mean, I've been a real shit dude for most of my life. But the thing that I'm starting to realize, and at the risk of sounding like a real asshole, hopefully you're realizing too, in doing the Meet Your Congregation stuff. I mean, there are people that are able to hold me up when I can't hold myself up. You know, it's, I've got people that are willing to stand at the entrance of my tomb and call for me to come out and cry over me. Yeah. And you got the same thing.
Oh, thanks. So,
man. Wow.
He's these Meet Congregations are, we've only done 2 now, but they definitely hit me in the ticker, man. So I guess one of my questions would be, and you may have already answered this, but what would you tell others if you were telling somebody about Revolution? You know, what would you tell them? I mean, because this might be somebody's first listen. They might have just clicked on this one, and because this is, you know, comes right after a sermon. So, you know.
So for me,
I don't know what to tell anybody.
The important thing to know about Revolution is really the heart of it, or at least what I perceive the heart of it to be, where it started. And that was a guy or a group of people who kind of felt disenfranchised by how things were, who were tired of towing the tradition line for tradition's sake. And so they wanted to connect. They wanted to connect with real people where they were. They wanted, you know, to climb into Sheol with other people. And so they did that in a bar. And then that moved, and you moved, and the big older gentleman from Atlanta, you guys drifted apart, I'm guessing.
Stu?
Stu, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't chatted in a while.
And there's a passion, there's a drive, there's a you get this a lot with people who fuck up, or people who feel like they are fuck ups, that they go to extreme lengths to kind of right wrongs from their past that will never be rectified.
Yeah.
And so I've seen, at least in kind of the sermons, and seeing your stuff on the internet and stuff, that you finally come to a place to realize where you've poured yourself past empty, and you need to be able to be filled so you can be empty again.
Yeah.
Going back to listener for you, Caleb.
Yeah, right.
But I think with Revolution, you have your kids that fill you. You've got a support system, and a shit ton of Matt Haig books, apparently.
Yeah.
Very perceptive.
I do. I like him.
That fill you, and in turn, you're able to kind of expose weaknesses, vulnerabilities, things about you, and pour that out in front of people so that they can connect, they can be filled, and then turn around and do that in the communities that they're in through the week. So that's the thing about Revolution that I love is, it's progress, it's growth, it's evolution, it's wanting to meet people where they are, but understanding that you have to be well to do that on some level.
Definitely feeling growing pains right now.
Yeah. I kind of have a follow-up question to what you were asking, Jay. Ryan, I'm curious, would you see and this is a genuine question, this isn't like a setup at all, I'm just genuinely curious, would you see a place for Revolution in the life of someone who doesn't have a religious background or who hasn't been abused or hurt by the church? Because I know that our entire physical congregation, and I think we're also finding out the majority of our online congregation, has a history of being hurt by church. Do we have a place for people who don't even speak Christianese or who haven't been traumatized by it? Like, I'm not even looking for a way for us to get in with those people. I'm just curious if we would even have a place with that demographic.
I think you do at some point. I think you go that direction at some point. I was actually I meet with this very old interim pastor for the PCUSA once every other week. His name is Pat. He's the sweetest man in the world, but we had the same conversation about Table at Cana today.
Cool.
Does Cana exist outside of hurt? Does it exist outside of pain? And at some point, yes, it gets to that place. But I think because that's kind of where it started, that's always going to be a very big aspect of it. I see the same thing with Revolution, that you guys are hurt people.
Yeah.
And you're trying to work through that. You're trying to deal with that tangibly. And, people who experience chaos carry that with them, and others are drawn to that. And Jay's got a really great way of speaking about the things that he's for rather than speaking about the things that he's against. And that positive spin on shit will draw you guys out of that chaos at some point. So yeah, I see it happening. Definitely. As far as the people that haven't gone through the church thing, fuck yeah. You guys are open, you're affirming, you're vulnerable, you're honest. How many times has Jay talked about, look, I can't fucking pay rent. Like, I got to find a part-time job, right? You're not going to hear a pastor on a Sunday talk about well, shit, don't know how I'm going to pay the light bill this month.
That's true.
No one outside of the church pretends to be put together. It's only assholes in the church that pretend that they've got shit together. That's true. That's going to draw people. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's just kind of tricky using the established format of, of quote unquote church or of Christianity when we have like no interest in quote unquote saving souls. We don't even, a lot of us don't believe in souls, and so when there's no conversion motivator there, when there's no altar call and things like that, it's just weird to use that same language and that same format and to stick with that. It's just a weird trajectory, I think.
So you guys are at least passing out the $20 looking tracks, right? Like when you go to restaurants or bars,
they look like a $20 bill.
Yeah. I mean, how else are people, gonna escape the throes of hell?
Right.
Unless they play that 30-second prayer.
Do you think you're a good person?
I remember finding one in a bathroom in a bar when I was drinking and thinking that God must have put it there for me.
Maybe she did. My first job.
Yeah.
I refused to work on Sundays because people would come from church, and that's what they would tip.
No.
And it was a huge fuck you.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Christians are some of the worst tippers in the world. And my first wife was, worked in the waiting industry, and it was awful. She'd come home crying, So I used to have a lot of sermons about tipping.
Mm-hmm.
My dad still tells people to tip well. So there's one good thing we agree on.
Yeah.
That and sweet 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah, I've had a few. They usually go straight to Goodwill, but yeah. I got another question, and I guess I'll try to wrap it up. But this is think critically here. Because we're always looking at ways we can do things better. Caleb's brought some new stuff to the table, which has been nice. I feel like he's trying to reform Revolution, which is weird because I always thought Revolution was reforming the church. And then I feel like I bring in somebody here who's like, we're a wreck. There is no God. I'm like going, wait a second, slow down.
We're a wreck.
Don't nail anything on the wall yet. A wreck, a shipwreck. A shipwreck.
Quickly, before you jump into that, nailing things on the wall, I got arrested at 17 for vandalism when I typed up my 95-point thesis and nailed it to the oak door at my church. Yeah, that's how shit started for me. So anyway,
that's wow, pretty cool actually. Cool. What could we do to make Revolution better? I mean, that's just a simple question, I guess. But trying to constantly think of what are ways that we can make this a better community or a better.
What could we do that would make you get more out of what we can provide you, I guess?
Or what could we do less of? Yeah,
or do less of, yeah, right.
I mean, less of Jay, obviously.
Yeah. If we could pay people, there would be way less Jay. If we could pay Caleb, there would be no Jay. It would just be I would be his assistant.
No, I think that was it Dan who brought up the idea of kind of some sort of like yearly get together on a Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
That's just a kick-ass idea. I mean, I'd take the 16-hour trip up to see you guys to do that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I am not a marketing guy, so I don't understand that aspect of things, like how to draw more people, how to get more people involved. I don't get it. I think that you're kind of doing things well, in the sense that you're doing what you can do, right? You're being as honest as you can. You're being as open as you can. I would like to see Caleb featured a little bit more personally.
It's nice.
That's nice to hear.
So I really, I subscribe to Caleb's podcast, and I like when he pops up on Revolution for the services. Getting more voices out there.
Yeah.
People of color, women, those from the LGBTQIA plus community. Getting some of their voices heard.
Seems like we were a lot better at that when we were in Brooklyn, but also we were doing a lot better financially. So, I hate asking people to speak and being like, yeah, I get to speak and we have nothing for you. But when I go speak, I don't speak for nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of a weird thing to do. But I mean, we've been lucky enough to have a few folks who were willing to come out and speak for us. You know, in the next couple of weeks, we have an atheist friend of ours coming to speak, and you know, Lawrence has come and spoke. We're gonna have Lawrence back again. So we've had a few really great people come and speak for us. But yeah, that's, you know, something we need to work on.
Well, if you want a pudgy, heavily tattooed white guy with a shitty beard crash on somebody's couch and speak, I'm down.
We'd love to have you speak, man. That would be fantastic.
That'd be excellent.
But I like I said, I think that even people in your congregations, like, you know, I don't know what your physical congregation makeup is. I know what the Midwest is.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be pretty Midwestern.
Over half of our regular congregants are, you know, queer, LGBTQIA plus.
The other thing, reach out to other faith communities.
Yeah.
Like Danny Prada is doing a lot in Florida by, he has a moms come and speak at his church in Florida, kind of bridging the gap between Islam and Christianity.
Yeah.
You know, just find different communities to connect with, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, our buddy Kurt has been taking me. He took me to a Buddhist event, and
fuck yeah.
Yeah, and he's trying to get me to go to the Satanist thing, but I keep having the kids. The kids keep protecting me from Satan. You know, and he does all this stuff, and I think people are often shocked when we go like, yeah, you want to come talk at Revolution? And they're like, well, I don't believe that, or I don't think that. You know, and you're like, exactly.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
That's kind of the point.
We barely do ourselves.
You know, we're not trying to indoctrinate anybody. You know, I think that's the hardest thing about having my kids at the church is I don't want them to be indoctrinated. You know.
Yeah, I was very cognizant of. I didn't want to create an echo chamber when I started doing Table at Cana. So I speak once every 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And I bring other people in to speak, and it's 30 minutes of teaching, an hour of discussion typically.
That's cool.
But that was my thing is I want as many perspectives as possible. Cause mine isn't the right one.
Yeah.
I had my wife speak, and she's, like her family is Roma. And she kind of talked about this weird universalistic, the rabbits are as important as fucking people and trees and raccoons.
Right.
And that was weird. And Midwest Christians kind of shit themselves a little over that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, just I continue to do what you're doing and bring other voices in.
I'd love to do that because, honestly, I'm feeling a little burnt out. I'm going through a huge transition with my theology right now and kind of going from a more probably traditional ELCA Lutheran kind of foundational belief system to more of a radical theology ideas and thoughts, you know, kind of Caputo and Pete Rollins and people like that. So a lot of changes going on, and it would be great to have other people, especially now, because I'm just like, I can barely get something in, and then I have to get it right back out again, too. So not just on an idea of just giving people other voices, but also at the same time, it's like burnout, you know?
Yeah.
I was raised with this idea that if you're the pastor, you got to work hard, and especially since it's Sunday, you can't miss a Sunday. The Sundays are sacred and all this crap, you know? And it's like taking those program tapes out of your brain and just letting go can be half the battle.
The sad thing is this conversation is more sacred than a Sunday.
Right.
So,
well, we've had some great afterglows, Revolution, with what we call our talk afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think the last 3 or 4 have been really slamming.
Yeah. Are those easy for you to access, by the way, while we're talking about like stuff that we can do better? Are they easy to find?
I thought at one point they were pretty easy. I haven't seen them pop up in a while.
Okay.
I'm checking podcasts real quick to see. Yeah, they're not popping up.
Okay. That's something I can work on.
All right.
Cool.
Well, man, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate what you're doing, and your feedback's been awesome. It's been really encouraging to hear what you have to say, and you know, it's tough doing this stuff. You know, it's tough putting it out there online. We have a tiny congregation in person, and then this larger congregation online. But you'd be surprised about how much feedback we don't get, and you start to go like, well, are those just accidental clicks? You know what I mean? Or is anybody listening,
their subscription or something?
And, is it all good? But, so this has been, extremely affirming to hear. And, even saying, well, get more diverse speakers and more people like that. I mean, that's affirming to hear as well, because, this isn't supposed to be the one-man show. So I appreciate that and appreciate what you do. And I hope you can make it here to Minneapolis and talk for us. That would be awesome.
Yeah, man. So thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. You've been very encouraging and flattering and eloquent, and it's good to see you face to face, even if it is over a screen.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Thanks,
Ryan.
All right, take care.
See ya. Bye.
That was a Post-Christian podcast.